Welcome back, fans, to the ECHL Insider. I'm your host, Garrett Hunter, excited to bring you a preview of the Kelly Cup Finals. But before we get to that, some important ECHL news to get you caught up on, including some new coaches now. The Savannah Ghost Pirates announced earlier this week that Jared Stahl will be their new head coach heading into the fall. He, no stranger to the ECHL, playing or coaching. We saw him in this league 2 seasons ago when he was the assistant coach of the Orlando Solar Bears. And then he spent the last 2 seasons as an assistant coach up in the AHL with the Charlotte Checkers. So a lot of coaching experience Stahl has under his belt. I think that's well prepared him to take a head coaching role at a franchise that really wants to take that next step, the Savannah Ghost Pirates. And one of the 2 new franchises in the ECHL coming up this next season, the Tahoe Night Monsters, announced that Alex Lowe will be their new head coach. He was the assistant coach the last 2 seasons with Savannah, so he knows what it's like to be in a new franchise. He was also the interim head coach at the end of this season for Savannah with a winning record. I might also add, in a lot of tough games that they won against teams that went on to make the playoffs. So I think Lowe definitely could be a great fit for Tahoe. A new franchise is always hard to get off the ground, and I think you take someone who's been in that environment in Savannah, and we see the success that Savannah has had, not necessarily in the playoffs yet, but they are definitely franchise-wise set up well, and he's going to look to get Tahoe off to a good start on and off the ice this next season. And the Bloomington Bison have not announced a head coach, but they did announce their NHL and AHL affiliate. They will have the New York Rangers of the NHL and the Hartford Wolfpack of the AHL to be their affiliates in their inaugural season. I think this is a great fit for them. New York, we see what they're doing right now in the playoffs. They're in the conference finals against the Florida Panthers. So definitely a good team to be affiliated with, and exciting time for the Bison as they get ready to start their first season in the fall. Well, let's get you caught up on how the conference finals went before we talk about the Kelly Cup finals. We will start in the Eastern Conference, where it was the Florida Everblades knocking off the Adirondack Thunder 4-2. And this series was mainly kind of won and lost, I think, in games 3 and 4. It was the Everblades shutting out the Thunder in back-to-back games at home. And going into game 5, I just was thinking, how on earth does Adirondack have a chance? They've been shut out the last 2 games. How do they respond? And they surprised me. A defining performance in game 5, a 4-2 victory. That forced game 6. And you really don't know what to expect in a game 6. You go back to Adirondack for that game 6 after they won game 5. The series was 3-2 in favor of the Everblades. And the Everblades, for about 50 minutes, showed, hey, we're the better team, up 4-1. And then the Thunder showed pushback. They scored back-to-back to make it 4-3. And then you have a minute left in the game. Adirondack needs a goal. And the Florida defense just showed out. I mean, it's 6-on-5. Adirondack has all the pressure in the offensive zone, and they're just blocking every shooting lane the Adirondack is finding. Finally forces them outside the zone where they would win the series. But I think if it wasn't for that Florida defense just being so aggressive, but yet disciplined at the same time in that final minute of game 6, Adirondack would have scored, and who knows where we would be right now. And it would have probably gone to a game 7. So that is what happened in the Eastern Conference. In the Western Conference, the Kansas City Mavericks, 4-2 victory over the Toledo Walleye. And in similar situation to the Eastern Conference, it was 4-1 heading into game 5. Toledo had a big victory in game 5 to keep the series alive going into game 6. I think I saw Toledo with an edge, I thought, going into game 6, and that was quickly wiped away. All Kansas City Mavericks in that game 6, a 7-1 victory to wrap up the series. That is the biggest margin of victory that we've seen in the playoffs now, all postseason. Mavericks left no doubt about it. Even a hat trick performance that you'll see that hat trick behind me at the end of this episode. What a performance. I mean, you could have had, I expect the dogfight in game 6 to possibly go to a game 7, and they left no doubt about it, about they were the better team in this series. And for Toledo, disappointing. You know, year in and year out, they're competing for conference finals, Kelly Cup finals. They're right there every year. And just another season where they come up short. And I think there's a lot of disappointment, especially on this team for Toledo. They expected this to be the year that they could make that step and finally hoist the Kelly Cup, but yet another season where they come up just short. They've been in the conference finals several seasons in a row now, and a Kelly Cup finals appearance 2 seasons ago. So very disappointing for the Walleye. On the other side, Adirondack, definitely a disappointment, but a very good season for them that they have to feel good about. Last season, barely making the playoffs. The season before that, they were the worst team in the ECHL. This season, they win the North Division. They get all the way to the Eastern Conference Finals, where they go with a close series against the back-to-back defending champs. So a lot to be proud of if you're an Adirondack fan. You guys had a heck of a season. Very, very good, and a lot to be proud of. For Toledo, still a lot to be proud of, but there is definitely more disappointment on that Walleye side. They thought this was the time that they were going to be able to go all the way. So that now brings us to the Kelly Cup Finals. In front of me, you see the Florida Everblades and the Kansas City Mavericks to win it all. It's going to take everything you've got, right? It's the Kelly Cup Finals. You're going up against a great team on both sides. You have, first, the Florida Everblades. Let's talk about them. Back-to-back Kelly Cup champions. This is the first time in league history that a team has made the finals 3 seasons in a row. And that's what the Florida Everblades have done. Head coach Brad Ralph has coached 13 seasons in the ECHL and has made the playoffs in all 3 of them. He is looking for his 3rd cup now with the Florida Everblades. A lot of returning players for the Everblades. 6 players from last year's Kelly Cup are returning to the Kelly Cup Finals this year. And 3 players I'd like to point out have won the Kelly Cup both years with the Florida Everblades. Those guys would be Kyle Newber, goaltender Cam Johnson, and captain Joe Pendenza for the Florida Everblades. All 3 veteran players that have played amazing for the Everblades these last few years. They look to get a 3-peat and get their name etched on the Kelly Cup for a 3rd straight year. And for the Kansas City Mavericks, this is their first year ever being in the Kelly Cup Finals. They do have 2 players on a roster that have won the Kelly Cup, Jake Jaremko and Jake McLaughlin. And yes, they won the Kelly Cup 2 seasons ago with the Florida Everblades. So especially for those 2 players, Jaremko and McLaughlin, how sweet it would be for them to get revenge on their old team and be able to hoist the Kelly Cup. Yes, they've kissed the Kelly Cup before with the Everblades, but they want to kiss it again with the Kansas City Mavericks this year. They'll look to do that. And I think this series as a whole, we look at the goaltending. Exceptional from both sides. Florida, led by Cam Johnson between the pipes. He's won those previous 2 Kelly Cups with them. He has been rock solid for them these past 3 years. He looks to finish off another Kelly Cup for the Everblades. And then for the Mavericks, Cale Morris and Jack LaFontaine, 2 amazing goaltenders this season. And I look at Jack LaFontaine especially. He struggled a bit last season when he played for the Solar Bears. He came to the Mavericks this season on an AHL contract and has played exceptional. I mean, the difference between the 2 seasons for LaFontaine has been exceptional, and you can just see a huge difference in his game. He has the best save percentage of any goaltender this year in the playoffs right now. So he looks to keep that success going as they go into the Kelly Cup Finals, and it should definitely be interesting. I have picked all the Kelly Cup playoff rounds so far. Right now, I have a 11-3 record, so I'm doing pretty good, a lot better than last season if you watched our channel a year ago. And so for my final pick, I will have to go with the back-to-back champs, the Florida Everblades. I'm picking them to 3-peat. I mean, the Mavericks, Brabham Cup champions, they have so much on their side going into this series, but remember back to last year, the Idaho Steelheads were also Brabham Cup champions, the best regular season this league has ever seen, And what did Florida do? They swept them 4-0. So Everblades can definitely do it. Mavericks can definitely do it. They are such a great team on the road. We've seen that all year long. So excited to see how this will play out. Check out now behind me the hat trick from the Mavericks in that Game 6 to win it over the Walleye. Make sure to subscribe to our channel, hit that like button below, and we will update you in a few days after Game 3 about how the Kelly Cup Finals is going.
Rice, Hayers sprinting after a loose puck with McKenna. Hayers left circle, threw it in front, and they score! Jeremy McKenna records the hat trick. It's his third hattie of the year as the Mavericks take a 4-0 lead early here in the third period.